Hi, I'm Dick Scott with RC Scott Photography. Today I'd like to talk with you about using the Panasonic GH5 for doing wildlife and nature photography. There is no doubt the GH5 is a fantastic video camera. I have been using the GH4 for the last year to make my videos in 4K, and the added features and upgrades to the new GH5 make it even better for video and also for stills. The GH4 is not a very good stills camera, but the improvements to the GH5 make it a pretty good stills camera. The focusing is better than the GH4, and with the new 20.3 megapixel sensor, it takes pretty nice stills. Rather than tell you about it, let me show you. All the videos and stills you are about to see were taken with the GH5 and a Panasonic 14 to 140 millimeter lens. The lens is equivalent to a 28 to 280 millimeter full frame lens, so it has a pretty good reach. When the video is over, I'll come back and tell you what I think about using the GH5 for wildlife and nature photography. Nature photography to me includes landscapes taken in natural surroundings like wetlands and wooded areas where you will normally find wildlife. I'll be right back. Enjoy the video. Well, what do you think? Is it good enough for you? Ultimately, it is your decision. You have to decide if it meets your expectations and requirements. I'm not going to tell you it will take the place of my Canon 5D Mark III or 6D for landscape or my 7D Mark II for bird photography. A micro four thirds sensor is still a micro four thirds sensor with the drawbacks that they all have. The GH5's micro four thirds sensor has more noise than my 5D3 or 6D full-frame camera, but not much more than my 7D2 with its APS-C sensor. They have improved the noise on the GH5 and it is better than the GH4, but it is still not considered to be a great low-light camera, although it isn't as bad as some people might think. That being said, my GH5 goes with me on every trip I take to use for video, which it excels at. To me, it is the best video camera on the market for the money. You will have to spend thousands more to get anything better. It is nowhere near as good as the 7D2 for flying birds. The 7D2 is great for that. The GH5 struggles to find focus, but it will find it better than the GH4, which almost never finds it. Some of that may also be me not being used to using this camera for flying birds. You need to use center point focus only with this camera to make it focus quickly. That is not a problem for me because I use center point focus on all my cameras for wildlife photography. It is the only way to get quick, accurate focusing. I now find myself doing more and more video when I am out shooting. I'm able to get fantastic slow motion video with the GH5 at up to 180 frames per second. It slows the action way down and maintains the quality so you can really see the action of the birds as they feed and fly. When you are shooting using variable frame rates up to 180 frames per second, you do not have autofocus, so you have to learn to focus manually, but with peaking, that is not as hard as it might seem. I usually focus by using the AE button and let it focus just before I start recording. I also have my HD 180 frame per second settings in Custom 1 and my normal 4K 60p settings in Custom 2. That way I can switch between the two very quickly. In VFR mode there is no audio, which is a bummer, and I hope they fix that in a future update. The variable frame rate is only HD and not 4K, but you can shoot 4K 60 and slow it down to half speed and still maintain 4K 30p quality, which is very good. The HD is good, but not as good as the 4K 30p. I think if you want to carry just one camera and small lens to reduce the load, then the GH5 and a micro 4/3 lens makes a great kit. You have an excellent video camera for 4K or video, or HD rather, and very capable stills camera as well. I won't go into all the details about the features of this camera because there are lots of videos already on YouTube that discuss all of that. It is a very neat camera and I love it. If you are looking to lighten your load and still do wildlife and nature photography, this is a great camera to use. The Sony cameras are another choice, but the battery life of the A7 line is terrible except for the newly released A7R3. The Sony A9 is pricey, but from all reports is a great camera, but really not all that small. The A7R3 is supposed to be a great camera, but it is pricey as well. The selection of lenses for the Sonys is limited and very pricey. The selection is getting better, but the price is not, although they are no more expensive than quality Canon or Nikon lenses. With the body stabilization, the GH5 can stabilize even cheaper lenses without OIS. Some of the Sonys can as well, but the stabilization on the GH5 is outstanding. I can go without using my Zion Crane gimbal stabilizer most of the time. It is that good. The GH5 is slightly bigger and heavier than the GH4, but still smaller and lighter than the average DSLR. The battery life is not as good as on the GH5 as it is on the GH4, but it is still good. I was on my third battery by the time I finished shooting for the day, but I had been out for 5 or 6 hours, and I put the battery in the latter part of the day. The GH4 would have probably gone through only 2 batteries for the same time. By the way, the factory batteries last longer than the aftermarket batteries, so it is worth the extra money unless you want to buy twice as many batteries and change them more often. I did not cover using this camera with Canon or Nikon lenses using a Metabones adapter. I will save that for another video. If you are interested in seeing a video that covers this, let me know and I can move it up my list of videos to make. My video, A Tour of Circle B Bar Reserve, has a lot of videos shot with my GH4 and my Canon 100 to 400mm version 2 lens using the Metabones T-Speed Booster XL 0.64x adapter. And that's a mouthful. It works very well, but occasionally I will get a lens not connected error, but that is generally because the contacts on the lens, adapter, or camera just need a little cleaning. Most of the time you can remove the lens and reseat it, and that will fix the problem until you have time to clean the contacts. Overall, I can recommend this camera for doing wildlife and landscape photography. It is not as good for flying birds and will not replace my Canon gear for many things I shoot. But with the video being as great as it is certainly my favorite camera to take with me everywhere I go. I am new to this camera myself, but it is a pretty easy camera to learn. It is very close to the GH4 with a few extra menus. Even if you have never used one before, it is very easy to use. The menus can be intimidating at first, but they are well laid out and easy to learn. The best thing to do is make a small cheat sheet of all the settings you generally use and where they are and keep it in your pocket. The better option is to set up the custom menu with all the settings you normally use, and then they are all in one spot. That is what I did. I hope this gives you a little more information about the GH5 when it comes to shooting wildlife and nature. If you like this video, please hit the like button, and if you want to see more of my videos, please hit the subscribe button, which helps me with YouTube. I would appreciate that. If you are looking for a flash bracket to get your flash above your camera to help reduce red eye in your flash photography, check out my website at www.rcscottphotography.com, where I sell a custom-made bracket that will fit most large gimbal heads like the Enduro GHP2. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach me through YouTube or send an email to dscott@rcscottphotography.com. I will be happy to answer any questions you might have about using the camera for wildlife and nature photography. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.